welcome to the Fire Service Warrior video blog, episode number 4. We're going to continue on with tackling our Ethos statement page and looking at each of those items and discussing them and kind of getting some ideas out there. And I hope getting some conversation going by the folks that watch this. What we're going to do today is we're actually going to tackle 2 points. Point 3 and point 4 of that statement. Because I think they're really tied together. So point 3, fire service warriors believe that all human life has value and will do everything possible to save a human life. And point 4, fire service warriors know that buildings do not spontaneously combust. If we are not 100% sure the building is vacant, we search. I say these points are tied together because the reality is the reason that we are searching buildings is because of the possibility of saving a human life. So if we don't start by acknowledging that all human life has value, it becomes very easy to say, I'm not going to go in there. I'm not going to put myself on the line. So I think we have to start with that. We could get into a million different definitions of what value human life has. But I think that when I talked about the post that I wrote in late December, we hold these truths to be self-evident. I think I pretty well hit the nail on the head there. Every one of us was created with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life is the first point in that. And that's something that, as Americans, and for everybody that's out there that's watching it from the U.S., that's the cornerstone of why we sought independence. And I think that worldwide, folks understand that we each have the right to life, to liberty, and to pursue our own happiness. When we talk about everybody being created equal, that's what we mean. It doesn't mean that Timmy and Tommy have just as good a chance at being good at soccer as one another. If Timmy's a better soccer player, Timmy's a better soccer player. It doesn't mean that if Claire and Karen, if Claire's super smart and Karen's a moron, doesn't mean they're both going to do as well in school or have the right to earn as much money when they get out of school. But they do have the same value as people. And that's what we're talking about. So it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. It doesn't matter if you live in the most opulent home on the planet or if you're homeless. We treat all human life as being special, as having value. And that leads directly into why we search. If we're not 100% certain that the building is vacant, we're going to search the building. Now, why do I talk about all this stuff? Why do I bring this up? The reality is, December 22nd, 2010, Chicago Fire Department lost 2 firefighters in the line of duty. Firefighter Ed Stringer, firefighter Corey Ancom. They passed away after being caught in a building collapse. In the collapse of a bowstring truss roof in the non-fire involved portion of a building that they had been fighting a fire. The fire was not the reason the bowstring truss collapsed. It was because of dilapidated condition and just a worn out building. But after that, people came out of the woodwork. The Monday morning quarterbacks came out of the woodwork saying, we shouldn't be in these buildings. We should not be searching these buildings. Well, you know why they went and searched that building? Because they were in an area where there's homeless people. There are squatters. They break into these buildings. It gets cold in Chicago in winter. Okay? I live just outside the city of Chicago. We're in the middle of snowpocalypse this week. Right? Just over 20 inches of snow in a 24-hour period. Freezing temperatures today. Folks have been digging out for 2 days. You know what happens when weather like that hits? People that don't have homes find places to shelter themselves. And we've got to go in and look for them. The building didn't catch fire by itself. Some human interaction occurred that caused that building to catch fire. Whether it be accidental, unintentional, a warming fire that got away from somebody, whatever it is, buildings catch fire. And unless we are 100% certain that that building is vacant, we have an obligation to search. How we go about searching that building is where applying all of that knowledge base that we're acquiring, knowing building construction, knowing fire behavior, understanding the whole of the fire ground system comes together. We're not going to place ourselves recklessly in a position that is 100% untenable. If the fire compartment has flashed, if the building has flashed, if it is pushing flame out of every nook, cranny, window, and through the roof, you know what? No one's alive in there. But if you've got a first floor fire that's chugging good and working, but has not completely taken over the building, there's still a chance somebody may be alive on the second floor. That's why we do things like vent enter search operations, right? We owe it to the public, to our neighbors, to go and make those searches if we can make the building tenable. Those searches may happen fast. They may not be extensive, but we have to do something to search the building. We have to control the fire, but we have to search the building. Our ability to do that is directly dependent upon our staffing on the fire department. I cannot execute the same operation with 6 people that I can with 25. It's just not possible. I have to have enough folks to be able to make the building behave, to be able to get some water on the fire, to be able to do good size up, right? I have to be able to take into consideration all of these things and do what I can to save someone's life. Now, how do we make this decision if we're going to commit to the inside of the building? Because I think that's what we need to drill down to a little bit here, is how do we make these decisions? The first thing is we have to know our area. We have to know our still district. What's our first due area? What's our second due area? What kind of buildings do we have? What kind of shape are they in? With what the economy's done, there's a lot more buildings sitting unoccupied right now. Homes in multi-million-dollar areas, storefronts in inner city areas. It doesn't matter where you are. These buildings are sitting vacant. As soon as they become vacant, they become a place where homeless people can seek shelter, kids have a newfound playground, drug addicts have a place to go and get out of the sight of the police. All of these things happen. We still have a responsibility to search for these people, right? So let's think about what our population is. Let's think about the buildings in our area. What are we likely to see? How are these buildings secured? Okay, if I pull up to a building and it is shuttered up, the entire first floor is shuttered up with something like the vacant property system shutters that are out there now, which basically turn the first floor of a building into an armored tank. If the entire first floor is shuttered up with these things and the second floor windows are intact and the building's on fire, well, you know what? I gotta make the assumption that the building, if it is occupied, that person is in a position where I'm not going to be able to get to them because they're in an armored shell. But more likely than not, the building is vacant. Are the utilities still connected? Were they rehabbing the building and there's something wrong with it because of that? All these things are possibilities. Same thing if I've got bars and HUD windows and barricaded doors. If those entry points are secure and there's no way somebody just randomly crawled into this building, I've got to take that into consideration. But at the same time, no matter how dilapidated or broken down the building is, if I pull up and the piece of plywood that is nailed over the back door is half ripped away and somebody could crawl inside, I've got to make that decision then about how tenable this building is to search. How am I going to search it? I may not commit to crawling through the entire building, okay? I have to at some point. At some point, I have to search every nook and cranny of this building. And I have to figure out a way of making the building behave to allow that to happen. But initially, until I can get water on the seat of the fire, this may be doing things like searching from windows, right? Taking the window out, getting to the window, either first floor window or second floor window, third floor window, whatever. Use an aerial ladder on an upper level window. Use a ground ladder on a first floor window. Get in there, hook that window sill, and sweep it with a long pipe pole. Get a sense of what's in those areas. If we're talking about a smaller home, we should be able to do almost every room from a window. Okay? Maybe we miss the center hallway. Depending upon the state of the building, we may have to accept that area is not being searched right away. Ideally, we're going to be in a position to know what the building is like and know that we can commit to the interior. We start getting into bigger occupancies. Now it's a tactical decision about how we're going to search it. Probing searches from different areas. Paying attention to what the building construction is like. Paying attention to the fire behavior. How is this whole threat envelope behaving? The reality is the fire ground is a 360-degree bubble. And I exist somewhere in that bubble. And surrounded every which way is a threat that can hurt me. I have to know how to make the building behave. I have to know how many people it takes. I have to know what my resources are. And I have to know how to get there. But ultimately, I also have to acknowledge that I see every human life as having value, and that unless I am certain that the building is vacant, I will search for that life. We can pre-plan our vacants. We can get out in our areas and take a look at the vacant buildings that we have. We can see whether or not they're open. We can see whether or not they're shuttered up well. We can see whether or not they're being controlled. Down below the video on the main blog site, you're going to see a couple of links, and one of them is for a guy by the name of Gabriel and Jemmy. Gabe is a Camden, New Jersey firefighter who writes a blog, documents stuff that he sees and what happens to him. He's written a really good post back in August about the importance of searching vacant buildings. Had a fire in a building. The fire victim was not found until 10 days after the fire because it wasn't thoroughly searched because of the condition of the building. Eventually, they found this person. Okay? We can't let that happen. We can't wait 10 days to find a missing person that's been a fire victim. Check out Gabe's blog. Check out the link. He's got some great pictures. He's got some great thoughts. And he's part of a group of guys that are trying to hold things together in a town that's just laid off a good hunk of their fire department and are fighting a lot of fire. So check out Gabe's stuff. Great pictures. I know he's teaching at FDIC this year with the Urban Essentials crew, so if you're looking for a hot class to go to, go check out what they're doing. You'll pick up some great techniques and tips. As we keep getting into these topics, we're going to keep getting deeper and deeper into this ethos idea, and eventually we're going to start to build on this and flesh all this out, pull it all together. But the reality is, we're there to save people. We're there to help people. And one of the big ways we do that is by searching. So, think about what you are doing. Look at the vacant buildings in your Still district. Could there be a homeless person in there? Could there be a squatter in there? Could there be a couple of 14-year-olds goofing off in there? You need to figure that out and make those decisions. You need to pre-plan those vacants and have an understanding of whether or not that building can be made tenable for you based upon your capacity and your manpower. But at no point in time should we write off a human life that has the potential to be saved. I just don't believe that we should. I've left you with a quote the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to leave you with one here. I read a lot of Eastern philosophy. I think it is great stuff and really opens you up to a whole different attitude about the world around you than the things that we typically look at in Western culture. And one of the people who I make a point of reading is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, spiritual leader of the Tibetan people. And the Dalai Lama said this: Our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. If we make the decision to not search because we're worried about ourselves, we are doing something that can hurt someone else. We're there to help them. Rescuing people is part of the American identity. I wrote about it in We Hold These Truths to Be Self-Evident. It's part of our identity. In June of 2005, U.S. SEAL operators were caught and ambushed in the mountains of Afghanistan. They called for help. A rescue helicopter was launched to go get them. 4 guys on the ground. 3 of them died in the action. 1, Marcus Luttrell, survived. 16 men on that helicopter died when it was shot down by an RPG. 16 more lives were lost that day because the U.S. military sees it as vitally important to save even one of their own. Those 16 men that died that day went into that action knowing that it could cost them their lives. But they did it to help their brothers. That's part of our American identity. And I think it's part of the identity of the fire service the world over to rescue people, to do what we have to help people and save their lives. If we're going to assume that responsibility, if we're going to assume that duty, and we've all done so voluntarily, that's why it becomes so important to master this trade. So, think about these things, talk about them, shoot me some comments, shoot me some feedback, let me know how you like the videos, let me know if you want longer discussions, let me know if you want shorter discussions, let me know what you're thinking, please. Because all the feedback that I get helps make this a better process, helps make it a better project. I hope helps me give you something more that you can take away. So, for this week, thanks for coming, thanks for visiting, thanks for continuing to refer folks to the site. January was a phenomenal month. I'd love to see February beat it. It's a shorter month, so you guys are going to have to come back and check very often and refer a whole bunch of folks. Check out Gabe's site. Again, it's listed down below. You'll take a look at it on the blog, and you'll see it there. You'll see the links. You can follow them. Great stuff, phenomenal things. Take a look at it. Once again, I will be at FDIC teaching a workshop on Monday afternoon for 4 hours, teaching a classroom on Wednesday. Come out, say hi, visit, find me there. If you're going to be at FDIC, look me up. We'll either sit down at lunch or sit down afterwards and grab a beverage and have a conversation and see where things go. So thanks again for coming out, and have a good weekend. Stay warm.